The Aussie NFL Fantasy Show would like to acknowledge the traditional land owners and the leaders past, present and emerging of Ngunnawal, Ngambri and Darawal countries where we are working from today. This always was, and always will be, Aboriginal land.
So big congratulations to Damien Pearce. That is a big honour for a young bloke.
Yep. We gave Marlon Mack a sack weight.
Yeah. best foot by Taylor.
Well, I'm going to reintroduce this that we did last year. Is a little segment from something silly that happens in the show. And the moment that is the front runner.
In a world of uncertainty.
River's jizzing in his pants, and then you bring up your wife in the next sentence. Like, oh no, what is going on?
There is only one place you can turn for fair dinkum advice.
One word, unbelievable. 2 words, holy shit. 3 words, oh my god.
A place where the undeniably American
It sounds so weird in like an Australian accent.
meets the undeniably Aussie.
Hey, let's stop the foreskinning for some absolutely wonderful segments later.
Where the analysis is solid.
I, for one, was not one of those haters, as I picked a Rams victory.
Look, I think he can get over 150 yards in this game, easily.
Kick his ass, Taylor Bass!
And everything else is out to kill you.
There's going to be shrinking nutsacks all over the place.
Welcome to the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
G'day, and welcome to the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. My name's AC, you know me, and I'll bring the other guys in just a moment. But I want to kick off by getting the social media out there so you can continue to find us when you're not hanging out with us like this, right? First place you can find us is through our link tree. Now you can bash in Linktree, Aussie NFL Fantasy, any combination of that into Google, and it will take you there. It'll also show you pretty much everywhere else you can find us. But through the link tree, you can get all of them in one spot. So that is our YouTube, Instagram, our TikTok, our Facebook, our Snapchat, our Twitter. We've got an email address, and we even has the link to leave a voicemail for us on Anchor if you want to be part of the show. So go and find that. That's through our link tree, Aussie NFL Fantasy. You can find us at any of these spots too on the YouTube, the Instagram, the TikTok, the Facebook, and the Snapchat at Aussie NFL Fantasy. You can find us on Twitter at AU NFL Fantasy. And our email address, for those of you who like emails too, send us a snapshot of your team. We'll judge you. Show us what trades you want to put up. We'll give you some advice. It is AussieNFLFantasy@gmail.com. Now, this is the first show of the NFL fantasy season. It's our 27th episode of the series, but it's the first one where the chips really are down. So I'm going to bring the boys in. Let's get them here.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
But mate, there's a tingling in my nutsack. What a man, what a mighty fine man.
God. Maybe get Taylor to do it because I want it to sound like the Sackville Abbey.
I will be Googling right now.
Aussie.
Still finalizing a few details with Pastry Press NFL representatives. That dude who runs Pastry Press is me. So all the trademark, all the copyrights have gone through.
NFL.
Yeah, look, I just heard the word pastry about 8 times, so I'm hungry as balls.
Fantasy.
All right, are we ready to crack open a fresh can of sleep?
I've talked about some players having AIDS, some players then having Yades.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
This is what you can do when you're a mythical creature from 3,500 BC. Well, big welcome into the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show to everybody, wherever you're from, because this is the beginning of something special. It's the first of the shows leading into a week of actual NFL football, which is going to bring us fantasy points, and I'm really thrilled about it. First thing I want to do, though, is bring in the pastry performer of public defense, Manjot Melly. Welcome to the show, brother.
Yeah, the Pastry Performer public defending. I'm back today. Very excited. Got 2 new jobs today, which is very, very important. 2 segments that I'm on. I'm very excited for all these new segments. I'm just trying not to die before NFL season because I've waited 7 months for this shit. And if I die like tomorrow, that's just the absolute most tragic thing. But yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's not jinx myself.
No, let's not jinx this. In fact, you're going to be really happy with me. I have kept it a bit of a secret what the red shirt I'm wearing is.
Oh, wow. T.O., let's go. Yes,
T.O.
T.O., I should have been wearing my rice.
T.O.
I should have brought my rice. I can still bring it.
I had 4 different TO jerseys at one point. Something happened to my something happened. There was one that hasn't survived. The Bills one, it might be, that didn't survive.
This Bengals TO.
I also think it's a great time to bring in Dr. GoodCall. Tay, are you pumped for week 1?
Matty, that tingling in my nutsack last week has turned into a full-blown Nick Chubb. I'm so ready for this week, mate. I am so pumped. We've been talking absolute garbage for months and months now, and it's finally time for that garbage to actually be about something. So I cannot wait for Friday, Thursday night football for the Americans, but Friday for us, absolutely pumped, mate. Let's go.
Well, I mean, and we've got a big show of stuff, and I think nobody would be more excited about this part of it, because last year you ran away with the starts of the week, and this year, look at this little puppy we've got. We've got an actual talisman.
Now. It's for more than just bragging rights.
Sorry to our Spotify listeners, Apple and Google listeners. You guys got to go on the YouTube show to see this.
Yeah.
We can't describe this enough.
It's a beautiful trophy. And in fact, in the little book, it's like a Statue of Liberty with a football head standing on a pedestal. And on the book, it actually says property of Talor. So our sculptor has got that in there. That's etched in time that Talor has won that.
For people that can't see it, it's if Shaq unzipped and then just put his dick in gold.
It's a bronzed Shaq cock.
Yes,
pretty much.
That's what we're all after.
Draped in cloth.
That's what he came to Australia for.
So I know that you're excited about that. I'm really excited about getting my starts of the week in there too, because man, I had a real shocker in a lot of weeks last year, and I'm ready to I'm ready to get some redemption
time.
Yeah, baby. But look, we've got a couple of really fucking cool segments coming up, because we're going to kick it off in a minute with one from Manjot. He's been running that pastry press for a long time, and he's going to be bringing a pastry performer. We're going to check in with Dr. GoodCall over here, who's giving us some prescriptions for some success, but also I think he's going to treat a bit of fantasy aids around the place as well. And then and Manjot's got a player he's got to publicly defend from the scourge of all this. We've got a rap sheet on a player that Manjot's got to try and defend him against. And I think it's just going to be a fun show, because we haven't tried almost any of these segments before. We don't really know how to get going.
This could be a flop of an app.
Well, I'm really ready to kick this off and kick it over to Manjot with the pastry performer. Let's drop in a drop. I've got a drop specially for Manjot.
They're so sweet and fresh. Really? Yeah. Thanks for calling pastries. Thanks for calling pastries. Pastries. I got all my pastries. Pastries. We get them while they hot. We get them while they hot. We get them while they hot. I got all my pastries and I got them while they hot.
So now, after indulging in the new pastries, I've got lots of pastries. You've been running your Pastry Press NFL page for a very long time, and you've been entrenched in a lot more on the NFL side of the analysis. And we thought it was just important that you could give us space to do something in that sort of realm, because that's what you were doing when we discovered your page. Yeah. But you promised to bring us somebody from sort of training camp pre-season who is the big pastry performer, and I'm desperate to hear who it is.
Yeah, so I went pre-season just off the pre-season games. He's been rising up the ADP boards in fantasy. He's a very big rookie running back. We only heard about him in Dynasty, but then he's just shot up the boards in normal redrafts. This dude has just absolutely decimated his running back field. He got Marlon Mack cut from his team. I'm definitely talking about Dameon Pierce from the Texans. He's the Texans' #1 running back now. It is official. He's starting this week. And absolutely, he balled out in preseason. We're talking to Ian a few weeks ago, and Pierce just balled out in preseason. And I absolutely love to see what this guy will do in the league. He's just going to absolutely tear up defenses. And I think he's a good pickup in fantasy for any of you guys there. So he's both the fantasy pastry performer, I would say the general NFL pastry performer preseason. He's just absolutely shot out of nowhere, and he's got a lot of hype going around him. So, yeah, he deserves that first pastry performer award of the Aussie NFL fantasy stint of the pastry performer awards. So
big congratulations to Damien Pearce. That is a big honour for a young bloke.
Yep. He gave
Marlon Mack.
He gave Marlon Mack a sack whack.
Yeah. best foot by Talor.
Well, I'm going to reintroduce this that we did last year is a little segment from something silly that happens in the show. And the moment that is the front runner, and that's going to start the episode.
Yeah, those drops at the start of the episode were legendary.
That was so good. And I haven't worked out how to do them since we've moved into being a YouTube show. But you know what? I'll find a way, and that's probably what I'm going to run with.
You just put the recording up of what Talor just said after laughing. Yeah.
Now, I was lucky enough to get Damien Pearce in a couple of places and some dynasties too. So I'm sort of rubbing my hands together because I managed to find myself a couple of really crappy dynasty teams I've got. All of a sudden, I'm in like year 5 or 6, and they're starting to become good. But good enough that I'm not right at the top end. But we drafted early enough I could get Damien Pearce pretty late in the first round. So I'm feeling pretty happy with myself in a couple of spots. Either of you guys managed to get shares of Damien Pearce anywhere in fantasy?
Yeah, I did in our league, in the COVID-19 Dynasty League. I got him as he's listed as RB2, but I put him as RB1 over that bomb Miles Sanders. I mean, that dude does not deserve RB1 over my boy Damien Pearce, and yeah, I'm very excited to see what Damien Pearce can do in the league. Talor, you got any shares of him?
No, I got 0. I brought it up last week in Dynasty. He just he fell just all around me in Dynasty. I didn't have a pick to 208 in the People's Dynasty, and he went 206. I took Jameson Williams with the 106 in FFL, and then by the time it was my second rounder, he was gone anyway. So yeah, it just didn't work out. And it was one of those things in my redraft leagues. He was just either out of my range, or I just thought he was going a little bit high at that point. Like, at the point we were still thinking Marlon Mack was at least going to be a pest. And I just had this nagging thing in the back of my head going, am I really going to pay a little bit extra price for a starting running back of the Houston Texans? Like, it was really worrying me because he's not really profiling as their pass catcher either. It looks like it'll probably be Burkhead. But again, we don't really know that. Like, he might get in there and get some passing down work as well. But at the moment, it doesn't look like he will. And that's kind of what you would rather at Houston because they're going to be down a lot. But again, he is proving to be so much better than every other running back that's there, which is probably not that hard. But there is also Dare Gumbawali, who profiles as a pretty decent pass catcher as well. So there are little things to sort of worry about, but he's so much the best rusher there. It's not even close. And if he just comes out and be dominant, he might actually have the Texans in closer games and actually help them win games. So, if he goes out there and has 75 to 100 yards rushing, you don't really need the passing work. And if he runs in a touchdown here or there, he's just going to be a great fantasy pick, even at the ADP he's at now.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the ADP is at now isn't really even baking in what he's sort of capable of. Because, I mean, who's he got to hold off? Rex Burkhead.
Yeah.
So
he's not holding anyone off in terms of the first and second down work. Like, there's no one else. Like, they're not gonna. They might spell him at times just because he's a rookie, but he's going to be getting a huge bulk of the touches.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of be nervous about him later in the year. Because that you hear this about like the rookie wall. Have you guys ever encountered that, where they've gone straight from big season to college, straight into combine and off season training, and then into training camp, and then into OTAs, and then training camp, and then preseason, then the season, and there's a bit of burnout toward the end of the season sometimes with some of these heavier workload positions. So just I guess keep that in mind.
I've just got a tip too in Dynasty. Because he's just going nuts. Like, there's even been screenshots of people like literally taking him with the 101 now. And people need to realize, like, if he has a really good first half of the season, someone's offering you the world for him, take it. Because in the end, what is really key is draft capital. He's a 4th rounder. And it doesn't, sometimes it just doesn't matter how ridiculously good his first season is. They still see him as a 4th rounder that they paid nothing for, and they could still draft his replacement. I'm not saying that's a guarantee. I still feel like a smart team shouldn't do that. They should see that they've got someone for cheap, and they should build around that. but it doesn't seem to be the way of the NFL all the time. People just still like to go, you know what, we've got all these picks. Let's still find a really, really good running back and go in the first or second round. And all of a sudden, Dameon Pierce is in the timeshare and maybe behind him. So if you're going to get a good haul for him because he's had a really good first half of the year, I'd take it. Whereas in redraft, if he's having a really good year, you could just stay the course because there's no reason why he probably still won't have a good end. I know Matty said there's the rookie wall, so if someone
that's not definite.
If someone's overpaying you in a redraft, there's no reason why you wouldn't take that at the end of the year. But in terms of dynasty, just be really careful because there's no reason why the Texans in the next year or the year after don't just go, all right, we're just going to take a first round running back, and all of a sudden Pierce isn't the guy.
Yeah.
I mean,
you only have to look in the same division and at Matty's team to see an example of that. Etienne and James Robinson. They just picked up James Robinson. He was undrafted, wasn't he?
Undrafted free agent.
Yeah, undrafted. And then Etienne a couple of years later in the first round. Both of them got injured last year. This year they're coming back. So Etienne might be featured on a segment later. We'll see.
Oh, there's some foreskin. Foreskin.
Let's get it out.
Well, that's a great spot to put the Pastry Performer. Congratulations to Dameon Pierce. You don't get a shiny smoky trophy like this, I'm afraid, but he does get a pastry. So good for you, mate.
Pastry's delivered by Instagram.
In today's busy world, it's hard to have it all. Who has time to do all the analysis and decision making for your fantasy team? Probably not you, but we can help. Whether it's positively diagnosing players with fantasy leprosy, or helping you find the players who are on the verge of being fantasy legendary. There's only one name in all of fantasy you can really trust. Make an appointment with Dr. GoodCall.
How was that?
Okay, that's just too good.
Firstly, fantasy leprosy.
I was trying to hold the laughter until the end, but okay, that's probably
Manjot's
the best.
done. Manjot needs a new set of undies.
That's the best segment drop of all time.
What are you going to diagnose there, Dr. GoodCall? I need to know what you think Manjot's got. He's got a case of what?
Yeah. It's a leaking appendage below the waist, I think.
Leaky O-ring. We'll go with that.
Yeah. Look, I don't know if the segment can actually live up to the hype of the intro, but what I thought I've sort of explained it on other episodes, but basically I'm going to take a look in the week upcoming in basically all the four main areas: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and even shitty tight end, and try and sort of diagnose a player that I won't give an exact ranking. It has to be outside of a certain ranking or anything, but I'm not going to be picking, I'm prescribing Jonathan Taylor up against the Jets or something.
Twice daily with food.
Yeah, I'm looking for something, a little bit deeper, like people that, some managers out there might be, coming up with a decision, maybe a start-sit decision on one of these guys, or just someone that maybe they weren't looking at that they might be able to stash on the bench, or just someone that, might be around the running back 20 range or something, but just has a really good matchup that could bust them into the top 10 that week. So, yeah, really just trying to prescribe some good players for this week that you might not have been thinking about. And then I'm also going to talk about a player with, we said leprosy or AIDS or however we want to put it. Someone who I'm going to try and pick out a guy that most people would be starting in week one. And I'm going to pick that guy to obviously not have a great game. Specifically with this one, I'm going to prescribe a bold call about that backfield. And, I've already given away it's a running back, but we'll talk about it later.
I think it'd be okay if you gave them any ailment you want to. If it was fantasy hemorrhoids one week, and if it was, I don't know,
we'll mix it up.
Yeah, feel free to, well, you're the doctor. I mean, who am I to tell you what to do, mate?
This is your hospital.
Yeah, I'm just a peasant, mate. I'm here for the painkillers.
I'm just gonna say, all those it'll come up COVID-19 information on Instagram when we just post it 1 week and Taylor's just prescribing someone with COVID.
That's probably true.
That COVID-19 info visit the government website thing, which is coming.
COVID 2022.
We also flirt with being cancelled a lot. So, I mean,
Yeah.
there's always that. Anytime you
Go
put
the
any
extra
three of
mile.
us in front of an open microphone, there's a chance.
Someone's getting cancelled. Yeah.
All right, Doctor, where do you want to start?
Doctor, I'm going to start with the quarterback position.
Ooh.
I'm taking Jameis.
Oh.
So I just got like a couple of small stats on these guys, and I've used PFF as a really good one, especially looking at like defensive line secondaries. They rank them basically on the year coming up. So I've got that he's playing against Atlanta this week. They were ranked 31st against the quarterback position last year. But again, I used that as a bit of a guide, but I also wanted to sort of look at something that's a bit more relevant to this year. So I looked up PFF for Atlanta, and they basically had the 28th best secondary for this year. So I think that obviously that gives Jameis a very good matchup this year. Yeah, exactly. They're one of the arse sandwiches in the defensive side. So again, this year I don't see Atlanta stopping many teams. You can talk up the fact that there's got Kyle Pitts breakout and things like that on the offensive side. But I just think Jameis is in a really good position. We're talked up. What was he, 5-1 in his starts last year before he went down? And he actually had a really, really good touchdown to interception ratio, which is rare for him. Yeah. He was actually playing really, really well before he went down, and all the reports are that he's killing it in the preseason. So that's all I can really go off in week one, is basically having a look deeper into the teams he's playing against. I sort of did the research to find out what the that he's playing against this year, not just last year, and basically they're still an arse sandwich. So that's basically enough for me to say that Jameis is going to sling it this week. Also, I've talked up, how big of an improvement his wide receiving core is this year. It's just insane. Like the guys he was throwing to absolute numpties last year, and they're down in 5th and 6th in the chart now instead of 1st and 2nd. Now you've got Landry, you've got Olave. I never know how to pronounce it properly, and and obviously Michael Thomas as well. So yeah, I think Jameis is in for a good week one.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we had a nickname for the Atlanta secondary too, and I cannot remember it. I'll have to dig that up. We had all kinds of nicknames for defenses and secondaries. Because the Titans, they were the
Titans were the Guinness World Record. It was I can't remember what we called it. I've just called so much ass in the past. So
I'll have to dig that up. Okay. I'll put a pin in that, but I love the call on Jameis. Yeah. Love it.
We actually did the Atlanta season prediction video on our Instagram. Somehow it was in our first 13 before we've got in. So I wrote for the defense. On defense, the Falcons aren't too much better. AJ Terrell should continue to improve at CB, but the rest of the defense is young and unproven. This might be another difficult year defensively for Atlanta. Yeah, that's what I wrote for the Atlanta defense. That's pretty much what James is going up against. He should have a field day. I completely agree with Dr. GoodCall. I'm not going to sue him for medical malpractice at this stage.
That'll come later.
Right. That's right.
All right. So Jameis up against the I don't know. Is that defense got fantasy syphilis or something? I don't know. There's some spots, some nasty rushes down there. Let's
definitely an oozing. There's definitely an oozing. So I'll move on to running back, and I'm taking the missile. I'm taking Eli Mitchell. I know he's had his concerns in the preseason with injury, but I'm taking. I just had to laugh because we talked about the missile from last year. But anyway, so he's up against the Bears. Oh man, that was good. Anyway, he's up against the Bears, and their PFF D line rank is second last. They're 31st for this year, and up against running backs last year, they were 18th on the year. So definitely in the bottom half of the league. It almost sounds like they could be worse this year than they were last year in terms of that spot. They didn't really do a lot in general to help Justin Fields on the offense or help the team really win this year. It seems like it's basically a tank. But I'm going to take Eli Mitchell. Every single game the guy played and was the lead back in last year, he was dominant. He just obviously caught the injury bug that every single San Francisco running back seems to get. And obviously they need a better doctor on their staff. Wink, wink. So I just think Mitchell's in for a great game. I really don't think they're going to spell him too much. Like the way Shanahan seems to run it is if he's there, he's the guy. So if he's healthy and playing, he's probably going to get 20 carries. I could see this being a bit of a slugfest. I think first proper game for Trey Lance, they're probably going to want to take it out of his hands a little bit. So I just think Eli Mitchell's in for a great game and up against the Bears team that should be pretty porous against the run. I just think he's got a great opportunity there.
Let me just add something. Apparently, there's a chance of rain as well.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So
Just
there you go.
more running.
Eli Mitchell is definitely a guy that could have a big game. If you remember that game against the Colts last year in the freaking, what was it, bomb cyclone or whatever shit that weather was in San Fran.
Yeah, that was gross.
Santa Clara, sorry. I know we don't play in San Fran anymore. But yeah, that Santa Clara weather was absolutely terrible. But Eli, he was still very good in that game when we were very bad. Mostly in the passing game, we're very bad. But then in the run game, Eli was just carrying us. So I think he's a good wet weather back as well. So that's something to take care of. Take into consideration. That's what you gotta take into consideration is that wet weather factor as well. So yeah, it's a good call there by Dr. GoodCall. 2 from 2, I reckon.
Taylor nailed. I gotta say.
Yeah. No medical malpractice lawsuit. Yeah.
Not yet.
Bring that one
Not
back.
yet.
Bring that one back. Taylor fucking drilled it. We'll bring that back. And of course, I love the missile. He was on the former Carabao Kings all of last year. My team was worst in the league after 1 week, and the first thing I did was go and picked up Elijah Mitchell, and he almost pulled me back to a playoff spot last year. It's just he just missed a couple of games at key times, so I don't hold that against him because the love affair's still there. And I mean, you're talking to Manjot and I, who are both in 49ers jerseys today. What's going on there?
Yeah, exactly. Had to bring the missile.
Appetite's wet for that.
He's going to dismissile the Bears, whatever that means. So I'm going to move on to wide receiver, and I've gone a fair bit deeper here. He's around the late 40s, early 50s. So
what have you done?
What have I done? That is great, Matty C.
What have you done?
I've gone with MVS.
Oh,
so for the Chiefs. So PFF again, been using it. Cardinals are ranked 27th in their secondary this year, and last year they were 29th against wide receivers. So the Chiefs, obviously, everyone's having a bit of a tough deal, sort of working out this wide receiving core for Pat Mahomes this year. I just think in general, they're all going to get a bit of a bump. I think they're all going to be quite useful just because Pat Mahomes is going to throw a lot. I don't think they're going to all of a sudden be running a bit more than they ever have. And I just think Mahomes has a lot to prove. And I sort of see MVS more in the mold of what Tyreek Hill left. I can see him being the big play guy, and it looks to me like the Cardinals give up a lot of big plays. I see him with Juju and Kelsey and some of those other guys sort of being in the intermediate routes, getting the shorter passes. And I don't know if this team's going to, the teams defending the Chiefs are going to feel the need to do the zone like they did last year, the two guys back and needing to sort of defend. I think they're actually going to see that and go, you know what, we're going to actually let them try and beat us over the top because they don't have a Tyreek Hill anymore. And I'm wondering if that's where MVS could actually thrive. I think he might be able to step into, I'm not saying he's Tyreek Hill, I'm not a complete goose, but I think he can sort of replicate some of it. And I think he's going to be the deep threat. And I just think he's going to have opportunities to take the top off this Arizona terrible secondary. So I'm not saying this is a play for like a lot of receptions. I can just see there being at least one big play to him in this game. And if it's a 70-yard touchdown, there you go. There you go. You've got 13.5 points in half PPR of one play. And for a guy that people are probably unsure about starting in almost any league, I just think there's an opportunity here for MVS to start the season off really well.
Wow. Manjot, what say you?
There's a bit of me that's thinking about Miko Hardman taking that role as well, but we haven't seen him that much.
Yeah.
So it could be literally anyone, like you said. So MVS, he'd be an interesting play, especially in the flex. But honestly, I don't know if I can see it.
Yeah. How deep's your league got to be, right?
Yeah, it depends like who you have already on your team. If you already got 3 wide receivers ahead, then I guess just play the 3 wide receivers ahead of MVS. But it's just a real 50-50 here. I mean, it just depends on your situation, circumstance. If you got good wide receivers, just play them. I wouldn't say MVS is a must start, but he is a decent sort of option that's out there. So
He's definitely not a must start.
What we pay here, though, if he ends up with a long bomb catch, touchdown or not, I think you got to say, Taylor, no.
I'm pretty happy with that.
That's 100%. Yeah, I'll agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, I don't like saying that. I'd prefer to say it has to be the fucking touchdown. But in reality, what he's saying is the guy's value is he can rip off a bid play. We saw it was his value with the Packers. And we know that that's something that the Chiefs are going to need. And they're up against a defense that has, all kinds of problems at the back. So, man, I feel like we've got to pay it if MVS ends up with a 50-yard catch. We just got to pay it.
It's one of those things where, like Manjot's saying, I'm not saying play MVS over one of your better more highly touted wide receivers, but this is basically me saying if MVS is gonna have a breakout game, I think this could be it, and that's why I'm sort of describing it's an MVS there for someone that maybe is unsure about their last wide receiver spot or flex, and they're kind of deciding between MVS and a running back, and they don't really see an upside for the running back. I think there's some upside for the MVS here, so. If you've got that decision, I'm just sort of giving you some extra stats to maybe lean you to MVS and taking my shot that his big game could be this week.
Give me two other thoughts real quickly. Both are huge digressions, and I apologize in advance. First one is that MVS actually kind of does sound like some sort of disease.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We got a little dose of MVS last summer, and, there was a cream for it, and it cleared it right up. The other one is, for those who are old,
it's like a viral syndrome. Absolutely.
Multiple viral sclerosis.
Yeah. We'll work on the M, but yeah, there's something going on there. For those of us old enough in fantasy, do you remember when Drew Brees had Jimmy Graham and Marcus Colston?
Yep.
And you knew they were going to throw up 40 points. You knew it. But fuck me, after those two, you knew someone was going to get a butt ton of points and you had no idea who. And I kind of feel like that's the Chiefs. I think we're going to see Kelsey get his. Cool. We're going to see Juju probably do fine. He's probably the best receiver in the rest of the squad once you take Kelsey out. But fucked if I know who's going to be next. Fucked if I know. Someone is.
That's what the Chiefs have been the last few years. Honestly, since Mahomes has been there, it's all been Hill and Kelsey. And then you've never known who the third is. I've just got a feeling that it's going to be more consistent from the wide receiving crew because I sort of put Juju in with the rest of them. I agree. He's clearly the one, but I don't think he's the one enough to be worried like he's Tyreek Hill. I think, there could be easily more than half the games where he's not the wide receiver one in that certain game. So I think there's more opportunity because there isn't a clear two. Kelsey's clearly the one, and it's a bit more murky at two, whereas in the past it's one is Kelsey or Hill, two is Kelsey or Hill, and what the hell is left? So I think there's a bigger opportunity for some of those guys. But again, it is also hard because there is now a lot of mouths to feed for that wide receiver two position. So I'm just taking my shot that it's MVS this week.
Yeah, I like it. This is the thing where he's got the balls to stick his neck out, Manjot, and it's hard not to respect that. Even though I love having a crack at Tay, it's I'd rather be in my position being the peanut gallery than being in Taylor's spot.
That's it. Wide receiver position's the best part to do that in too, just because it's so wide open. There's just so many guys that can have a boom week and then disappear. And I'm going to take the shot that's MVS.
Yeah, what's the chance of a Yahtzee? But I mean, when a Yahtzee comes up, holy shit.
That's it. And you've got a genius.
For those of us old enough to remember when you used to play games with dice.
Great. All right. The last one you guys are going to like because you drafted him in your team. Tight end Gerald Everett of the Los Angeles Chargers. And this one is I don't really have PFF because I didn't really feel like there was any specific grades that they gave that really went against the tight end position. So I really based it off the Raiders' finish against the tight end position in 2021. And they were 30th, which is third last in defending the tight end position. So a lot of those stats are pretty sticky. Like a lot of teams that struggle against the tight end actually seem to struggle against the tight end for many years. It's just one of the most defensive schemes. I know they've got a different coaching staff, so that may change things. I don't know, but a lot of teams do sort of, for some reason, funnel in a way that they defend what they defend. So. Yeah, I'm just going to go Gerald Everett. I just think he's got upside in this team. Like, this team is going to throw so much. I can see this being a really high-scoring affair. And Gerald Everett has proved in the past, whether it's in the Rams, he actually had some decent games for the Seattle last year. He's definitely a target in the red zone. So, again, it's probably not one, especially in the tight end position. Not many people get a lot of receptions anyway. I'm not saying that Gerald Everett's going to have 10 receptions or anything like that, but I think he's going to be a huge opportunity to get a touchdown. That's basically all you really need in the tight end position, especially
100% what you're hoping for.
Like you probably would have Everett. Yeah, I'm taking the opportunity that the Raiders still struggle against the position. And I think Gerald Everett has the tools to sort of take advantage of that. So, yeah, I'm just going to Gerald Everett.
Yeah, I think I said on the podcast last week when we were recapping the show that I just took Gerald Everett out of impulse. I just took him straight up when we were talking about every other guy on the board. Yeah, we were talking about every other tight end on the board, and I just was like, screw it, Gerald Everett. I didn't even mention his name. I just took him out of nowhere because we had like probably 5 seconds left on the clock. I was like, click Gerald Everett.
Just slam dunked in. I mean, the other options there were guys like Albert O and other guys you're like, oh, God.
Hunter Henry.
Hunter Henry. I mean, none of them are good options. So
he's a high upside guy, though, Gerald Everett. I'm very excited to have. He'll be great.
He's going to be great this week. We know it. Dr. GoodCall said it.
Mate, that thing about the Raiders and tight ends, though, it's almost like you're inside my brain because as long as I've been watching football, I can't remember a Raiders team that could stop a tight end at all. Like, a lot of them you couldn't stop paper bag at tight end. And this guy is actually a somewhat useful player. So, I sort of thought the same as I was looking down who's got what matchups. I'm like, oh, actually, our tight end is not so bad this week. And it's tough in a 16-team league. You're not always going to end up with guys in favorable matchups. But, I looked at that now lineup because Manjot and I have the Western Lakers in the Astro League, and we've got Gerald Everett there. I actually didn't feel bad about it, which is going to be one of the very few weeks I think this year I'm not going to feel bad about it. Can we just stream whoever's playing the Raiders, Manjot?
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. There was a year, I want to say it was like 2 or 3 years ago, and it was the Cardinals. And they gave up a touchdown to every tight end in the entire season. It was like, and it was just like, well, it's the tight end position. So it was like absolute bums too. Like just every single time the team played against the Cardinals, just whatever tight end they had was going to score. It was
like Drew Sample would score a touchdown. You're like, I don't even know who that is.
It was like the Cardinals were trying to keep the record alive. They were just like leaving the tight end open at the end of games just to keep this going because it was like their one big thing of that year. Like, it was unbelievable.
The Ravens are trying to keep their streak of 100 rushing games.
Exactly.
In Arizona, we're trying to keep opposing tight ends in our end zone.
That's it.
Basically, what I just said for like 5 minutes was I'm basically saying that against wankers like Matty C. Like, he pretty much is the epitome of the people that I was trying to talk down in my little segment there. So
I do like that Talor keeps me accountable, even if he's wrong a lot of the time. But now I can't even say that because it turns out he's right a lot. All right, Doctor. You've talked about all the positive things you're prescribing. Is it all happiness and rainbows, and do we all get a lollipop on the way out?
No, it's not. And whoever owns this player in any league, I'm prescribing you an adult nappy because you're going to be shitting yourself when this player's on nothing in the fourth quarter.
What's the bet? He's just picking someone from our roster, Manjot.
I'll just have a scroll through.
That's it.
So this is someone I haven't really talked about. Someone came on our podcast and talked about this player. So my player with AIDS, and I just, dropped some foreskin on the floor as well, as I'd said that. It's Breece Hall.
I knew it's a Marky Mark player.
Yeah, it's a Marky Mark one. So Baltimore, even with a destroyed defense due to injury, was still 10th against running backs in 2021. This team is healthy now, and you'd assume would lead for a lot of this game. Hall had a bad yards per carry in the preseason and is coming into a role that I believe will be split with Carter but I think Carter's going to get the role which has more value, which is the pass catching role. My bold take here is a bit of a prescription for anyone looking for something a bit different. My bold take is that I think Michael Carter is going to outscore Breece Hall in this game.
Ooh.
At an ADP of 17, running back 17, and Carter's at running back 39. So I think that's a pretty bold call. But like I said, I just think this backfield's going to be split. But I think Carter's going to get the work that's actually more relevant in this game. I'm not saying Hall's a bad play over an entire season. I just think he's going to take a long, long time to get going. And the Jets have got a ridiculously hard first half of the year, basically. And then it doesn't really open up until the second half of the year. So I think it's going to be tough for the running back of this team to really get going unless they're the pass catcher. And I really think that profiles to be Carter, especially early in the year. So I think Carter could actually outscore Breece Hall in this game and maybe even a couple more games in the near future.
Wow. I mean,
I actually can see this. Because the Ravens, I expect them to put a cricket score on the Jets. They always come out in week 1, don't they, and just put a cricket score on a bad team. Their first game against a bad team and just putting up big numbers. And I reckon Michael Carter is the better option because they're going to be passing more. They're going to be down to like 20 probably. And a lot of people have the Ravens over the Jets as a survivor pick. If you're playing survivor, it's either them or the Niners over the Bears. That's just how I'm feeling. I'm still deciding. I'm starting up my survivor career again, and not the reality show career. Just
although that would be sick.
Yeah, that would be good.
We'll start a campaign for that.
Yeah, Survivor Canberra. I'd go on that.
Yeah, no, and there is a Survivor Canberra. It's I'll have to share something with you about that. It's going to be extremely boring for our listeners.
I mean, I know you've sent me it before, so that's how I knew about it. Yeah. So
I applied for it.
We're getting cancelled soon anyway. So
yeah, we're getting cancelled soon. Might as well bring the ship down and say that Taylor's correct. Yeah, that's it. We're cancelled.
All right, that's my prescribing done. Hope everyone stays healthy out there.
Yeah.
The doctor, come on with it. Can I just quickly too, Manjot, for our foreign listeners, can I get you to give people an idea of what a cricket score is? Because you say they put a cricket score on someone. I think you and I know what that is. But how about old Jimmy in New York State? He might be struggling with that.
Yeah. Apologies to all our American viewers because I've probably been watching too much rugby league recently and everyone's talking about cricket scores because a cricket score basically means a big score.
Yeah.
Something massive, say like 40, 50 points in American football. That's what I define as a cricket score, 40 or 50 points.
A 50 burger, that's a cricket score, mate. Yeah.
That's a cricket score to me.
I mean, so we grew up on cricket, the three of us too, and you'll see first inning scores in cricket of 400 or 500 runs, and so they're big numbers, and you don't get that in football. But yes, it really is meaning something unassailable. Like, wow, you leave with a really sore asshole after a game like that. So the Ravens are a good example because they put up that 59-0 on the Dolphins 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I was
Lamar Jackson said, "Not bad for running back."
MVP Lamar came out. Oh, that was the best.
That was my favorite snippet from a press conference since I'm just here so I don't get fined. Not bad for running back.
Playoffs. Playoffs. We talking about playoffs.
Playoffs, yeah. Wow. So the doctor, he's in. We're all good there, and I think we've cleared up some syphilis, we've cleared up some AIDS, and we've got a few good drugs on the way, which is even better. And then I'm pretty excited about this. Taylor and I have been working on something in the background to go and throw in front of our crack legal mind here. This is another one. We've got a new segment intro. You guys ready for it?
Yeah, let's go.
Whether your fantasy team has been robbed of fantasy points by a star player laying a total egg, or you've been the victim to a high-risk player being injured at work, you need the right advice. There is only one place to go when your team or your player need representation in the court of public opinion. Make time with Manjot Melly, public defender.
If you guys throw out a good player, I might need a 5-minute adjournment and write down all my legal advice.
May I approach the bench?
No time for that.
No
Straight in the
time for-
fire.
Can I dismiss the jury for a moment? Yep.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a fun old segment because I guess this is another brand new one where it's kind of taking shape and we don't know exactly how it's going to wind up. But to begin with, Taylor and I have agreed on a player who we think might just be getting a little over celebrated, and we're going to
have
see
a prosecution.
Yeah, we're going to bring a bit of a rap sheet about this player. We want to see if Manjot can defend this guy's position. Tay, I think you should kick it off, and I'll just come in with the, over the shoulder. Yeah, that's right. If you want to start the argument.
Well, first on the docket is the people versus Joseph Burrow, and for his egregious ADP of quarterback 6 this season.
Yeah.
I say to you, jury, why is this man being put at quarterback 6 when up until the week 15 last season, he was quarterback 12? Why is his ADP halved? Just because of 2 games at the end of the year against shitty secondaries. One of them was the Ravens, and they had no one left. They had no players. They were all injured. And Joseph Burrow, I'm calling him Joseph, and he just did not have anyone against him. He went through 500 yards 2 games in a row against depleted defenses. No one cared. But up until then, Zach Taylor ran the slowest offense in the league. And if that basically goes anywhere near as slow as that, there is no way Joe Burrow is going to get quarterback 6. He also doesn't run the ball. He actually doesn't do anything with his legs. So he basically needs to throw for 4,500 yards and probably 30-odd touchdowns just to get his ADP back because he doesn't get anything with his legs. I say it's egregious.
Yeah. I actually don't have anything to add. You've used everything on my sheet. This segment is going well.
It is going well, isn't it? Until the public.
Right, so, we rest. The prosecution rests.
That's all we need.
Your witness.
Yeah. So the public defender is in. I am here to defend my client, Joseph Burrow, also known as Joe Shiesty, also known as Joe Burr. Burr. Sorry, forgot to. Yeah, there we go, Matty.
Burr.
There we go. Yeah. That's my client, indeed.
Objection, shit name.
Objection denied. Objection denied. Please, Your Honor. Please. Denied of objection.
I need to hire us a judge.
We need to hire a judge. Get Ian.
Is it overruled? Overruled, sustained? Is that what the judge is saying?
Objection.
I've watched this for you.
Movement to
I've watched
strike.
this for you.
Yeah, upheld or overruled. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Anyway, back to my legal form. Back into my legal form. All right. Look, I can defend my client Joe Burr from these egregious and defamatory charges that have been laid by the prosecution today. The court of public opinion. I really want to sway you guys because did you see that shitty O-line he played last year? That was absolute dog shit. Turnstiles, literal airport turnstiles he was playing with. You could get through that shit fast, and it was like there was enough people filling up that backfield like an airport in Australia at the moment with how badly Qantas is managing that shit. That's how bad it was looking out there in his backfield last year. He had to be pressured. Did you see that final play of the season? He literally got manhandled by Aaron Donald when he had Jamar Chase wide open. Well, this year, he's got La'el Collins in. He's got a whole revamped right side of the offensive line. And there is a massive chance that the Bengals somehow, some way, might actually be better than last season. And Joe Burrow can easily play up to that ADP of number 6. Tom Brady can play up to number 6 ADP, and he doesn't even need like Saron. He's got a high-powered offense. If you look at the guys that Burrow's throwing to, he's got Jamar Chase, who's probably a top 3 wide receiver in ADP at the moment, and he's probably going to finish in the top 5 ADP at the end of the year. Well, top 5 overall at the end of the year. Sorry, I shouldn't be using ADP at the end of the year because no one's drafting at the end of the year. But yeah, so that's my first defense. Second defense, he's still got T. Higgins, your boy, Taylor, your boy, he's one of the boys of the prosecution, and yet you still want to put Joe Burrow on charge. You want to put him on trial here. Really, when your boy can be affected by this, come on, man. Yeah, Joe Burrow, 100%.
I'm not on trial here, man, Jot.
Yeah, I'm putting you on trial. I'm putting this back on you. Putting this back on you. Why you just going straight at T. Higgins like this? T. Higgins quarterback.
Objection, Judge.
So why do you hate T. Higgins? It's like, who's on trial here?
And don't forget my boy Tyler Boyd. I like Tyler Boyd. He's always been my boy. He's just always been underrated, and I think he's a good wide receiver for in that offense. And Joe Burrow, 3 elite wide receivers. He's got Mixon as a security blanket in the backfield to throw to. This guy's got a ton of weapons, and he can just throw it left and right. I think he can actually play up to his ADP. Now, whether I agree with the ADP at the moment, maybe not, but I can defend this because Joe Burrow, he just can get better. His ADP can just skyrocket right now because the reason it is skyrocketing at the moment is because his offensive line got better. He has massive potential to overplay what he did last year. And those 500-yard games can tell you. I know there was weakened secondaries, you guys can put that, but he had weakened O-lines as well. So it balanced out. He just threw it everywhere. And I think that's a fair call. He had a shit O-line for most of the season. And now he's got the best, not the best O-line, but he's got a way better O-line than what he had back in last year. So that's
the
my
best
point.
O-line of his career.
Yeah.
Can we say that?
Well, LSU 2019, how much did he get sacked? I need to check the stats on that. But look, I'm very excited to see Joe Burrow. And I think he's got a good chance to outplay what he did last year. So there we go. That's my defense.
I feel like he did an admirable job there because I even found myself part of the way through thinking to myself, and he's still got Tyler Boyd. I mean, you and I were talking about Tyler Boyd earlier in the day too, man. We were just, we're looking at some benches in a pretty deep league and we're talking about him. So I guess I'm a little bit, I was a little bit plagued by some recency bias there. Tay, what do you think?
Look, in the end, I think the person that should be on trial is Zach Taylor because we need to know why that guy's not running an offense that suits a team with absolutely wonderful receivers like this and an up-and-coming quarterback. Again, he might. We really don't know. He might change it to that, and that's where the upside of Joe Burrow is how much do they change? Do they stay exactly the same? Because then Burrow's way too high. If they just change 20% of it, then there's upside for Burrow to sort of turn that around with those receivers. And as Manjot said, a far better O-line. So it's really such a guessing game with Burrow, which has just made it hard for me to trust it at that ADP. With Brady last year, you knew what the offense was. You knew they were just going to peg the living shit out of it. Yep. So, it definitely gave you a bit more confidence, whereas this year you just got to take that. You take your shot. Like, if you think they're going to pass the ball more, you jump on Burrow at that ADP because it's going to be hard for him to get to one without a rushing baseline, but he could easily throw for an absurd amount of yards and have a massive year. So, look, you just take your shot on it. I think it's a bit too high, but again, it could, he could easily end up in the top 5.
Guy like Breeze or Rodgers never had to run a lot to get that kind of finish as well. And what I found myself silently here thinking in the last 45 seconds is, does Joe Burrow have that kind of upside as a pocket guy? Maybe.
We don't know. It's so early still.
I don't know. I mean, he was on my fantasy team a lot of the early part of last year in the Astro League. And I got quarterback 12 Joe Burrow. And I got to tell you, get your buy in a 12-team league, but it's not what you're looking for. So I guess I've still got a little bit of that in my mouth that I'd already dropped him by the time he started going off. My season was already over.
I picked him up. I picked him up for those games but didn't play. I picked him up as Mahomes' backup, remember, because I was rattled by all the injuries around Mahomes. There was no Hill, no Kelsey, so I almost played Burrow over him, but I just couldn't handle me losing my entire season in the Astro League semis because I played Burrow over Mahomes.
Can you imagine having to describe that in the future too? Going,
Yeah.
son, gather around, children. Let me tell you a story about the time that Dad was going to win the championship, and he decided to play Joe Burrow over Patrick Mahomes.
Exactly. I just couldn't do it. And Mahomes was fine, but he just obviously was nowhere near what Burrow was.
He was no Joe Burrow. I mean,
yeah. Oh, of course.
Manjot, I think you've done a really highly celebrated job there, mate. I don't know if you'll get Joe Burrow completely off this rap sheet, but I think it does enough to at least get him bailed.
Yeah, it's like a misdemeanor now. Like you got him off jail time.
There's a plea deal there. I think there's something.
Yeah. Can get that summary disposal. Yeah, that summary disposal. That's what it's called. I've been doing criminal law, so I actually know this shit now. So yeah, that's what I'm studying at uni.
This is why you're the public defender, though, because I mean, Taylor and I, what we know about the way courts work is all we've learned from Olivia Benson over at CSI.
100%. 100%.
That's all we know.
Yeah. I'm actually learning the actual law. So the summary disposal, the prosecution can elect, or the court can elect to dispose of the case and make it a summary offense. So it's a lesser offense. So if you guys are willing to do that summary disposal, that's what we have in the ACT. So if you guys are willing to summarily dispose of this case, some of these words tonight, I just can't say half of the R's.
That's fair enough. If we wanted syphilis, was it syphilis?
Thank God, syphilis. Yeah. Some of these words.
Is that it? Yeah.
Say it. Just
fuck it.
Yeah. Summarily. Yeah. Summarily dispose of the case. Would you guys accept that? Yeah. Would you guys accept a summary disposal?
Sure.
I'm down with that, Your Honor.
Yeah. I think. Yeah.
I can vibe with that, Your Honor.
Yeah. There we go. So it's been reduced.
It's been reduced.
Yeah. The criminal court of law. Crimes against children are considered especially heinous.
I feel like now I need to enter like a gavel bang and then like a black screen with the outcome on it. So I don't know. We'll see how clever I get with graphics later on. But congratulations on publicly defending Joe Shiesty, Joe Burr, on his big day in court, Manjot, and we'll work out who you've got to defend next week after somebody shits the bed week one. And
look, for any NFL players who are having shit fantasy games, call me. I'm the best public defender. You just saw it in action. I just absolutely defended the shit out of Joe Burrow. I got his charge downgraded through summary disposal. And I absolutely love this because next week I'm going to get those big bucks. I think Amon Ross St. Brown, he might be the next one after his Instagram story today. I think he's next up.
He's calling his shot. He's pointing out into the ground, so it's like, I'm going to hit it over there. He's calling his shot. All right, Tay, I'm taking note of that. Amon Ra. All right, let's see what happens next week.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
My takeaway from that game is they played against the Seahawks. They're going to be flappy ass cheeks this year.
Aussie?
Well, we heard you were taking a Lamar Jackson style shit.
Yes. Manjot, I like to do what I do best in this world, and that's where I do some of my best work.
NFL?
Oh, hang on, there's another quote. Daniel Jones is awful.
Fantasy.
Yeah, this is predate the Manjot, the myth, the legend, 100%. Because I was only born in 2017. I'm only 5.